There are moments in entertainment history that feel almost surreal. Moments where legacy, pressure, and destiny collide in a way no one can ignore. And for one of America's most iconic families, a name that has defined music culture and global superstardom for decades, that moment may have just arrived. Because according to emerging reports and early reactions from those close to the situation, Jaafar Jackson has done something that left members of the Jackson family visibly emotional, even in ears. This isn't about scandal. It's not about controversy. It's something far more powerful and far more complicated. It's about stepping into the shadow of a legend. It's about carrying a name that changed music forever. And it's about what happens when someone doesn't just try to follow in those footsteps, but dares to fully become them. Because what Jaafar Jackson has done, some are calling bold, others are calling risky. And a few insiders say it's something the family never truly expected to see. So, what exactly happened? Why are people so emotional behind the scenes? And could this moment redefine the legacy of one of the most famous families in American history? Stay with us because this story goes much deeper than headlines. To understand why this moment is hitting so hard, you have to understand what the Jackson name means. Not just in America, but across the world. At the center of it all is Michael Jackson. Widely known as the King of Pop, a once-in-a-generation artist whose influence shaped music, dance, fashion, and global entertainment in ways that are still unfolding today. His impact wasn't just artistic. It was artistic. It was emotional, and deeply personal for millions of fans. But behind that legacy is an entire family whose story is filled with triumph, pressure, discipline, and sometimes heartbreak. Widely known as from Joe Jackson building the original group to the rise of the Jackson 5 to the evolution of each sibling into individual artists, the Jackson family became a symbol of excellence, but also of expectation. And that expectation didn't disappear with time. It passed down generation after generation. That's where Jaafar Jackson comes in. As the son of Jermaine Jackson, Jaafar grew up surrounded by music, legacy, and the constant awareness that his last name carried enormous weight. But unlike many who inherit fame, Jaafar largely stayed out of the spotlight for years. He wasn't constantly chasing headlines. He wasn't overexposing himself on social media. Instead, he quietly developed his craft. And then came the moment that changed everything. Jaafar Jackson was cast to play his uncle Michael Jackson in the highly anticipated biopic Michael. And from that moment, expectations skyrocketed because portraying Michael Jackson isn't just another acting role. It's stepping into one of the most iconic identities in modern history. It requires precision, emotional depth, physical transformation, and perhaps most importantly, respect for a legacy that millions feel protective over. And that's where the pressure truly begins. Now, according to reports and early production insights, what Jaafar Jackson has done during filming is what's triggering such emotional reactions within the family. Sources close to the production suggest that Jaafar didn't just study Michael Jackson. He immersed himself in the role in a way that stunned even those who knew him personally. From vocal tone to body language to movement to emotional expression. Reports suggest he reached a level of transformation that some insiders describe as uncannily real. And that's not a word used lightly when talking about someone as globally recognizable as Michael Jackson. Early behind-the-scenes footage and rehearsal clips, though limited, have already sparked strong reactions online. Viewers who have seen glimpses say Jaafar doesn't just resemble Michael. At moments, he feels like him. And that's where things became deeply emotional because for members of the Jackson family, this isn't just acting. This is watching a loved one bring back someone they lost. According to sources, certain scenes during production, especially those recreating pivotal moments in Michael's life, reportedly left family members overwhelmed, not because something went wrong, but because it felt too real. Reports suggest there were moments on set where the emotional weight became difficult to ignore. Moments where silence took over, where reactions weren't scripted, where the line between performance and memory blurred. And that's what many are referring to as the unthinkable, not controversy, not scandal, but transformation so powerful it reopened emotions that never fully healed. From an industry perspective, what Jaafar Jackson is attempting is one of the most challenging feats in modern biographical film. Portraying a global icon, especially one as documented and analyzed as Michael Jackson, leaves almost no room for interpretation errors. Every movement will be compared. Every vocal nuance will be dissected. Every scene will be judged not just by critics, but by fans who have spent decades studying Michael's performances frame by frame. Film analysts suggest that biopics often struggle when the subject is too iconic because audiences already have a fixed image in their minds. But in this case, there's a unique advantage. Jaafar isn't just an actor. His family. That brings authenticity, but also risk. Because if it works, it could be one of the most powerful portrayals in music film history. If it doesn't, it could face intense scrutiny. There's also a broader cultural factor. In today's media landscape, legacy-driven storytelling is under a microscope. Audiences expect honesty, depth, and emotional truth, not just performance. And that means Jaafar's role carries not just artistic responsibility but cultural responsibility. Online reactions are already building and they are deeply divided but highly engaged. Some viewers are expressing excitement, saying this could finally be the definitive portrayal of Michael Jackson's life. Others are cautious, questioning whether anyone, even family, can truly capture the complexity of such a legendary figure. But one thing is clear. People are watching closely. Clips, photos, and production updates are being shared across platforms with fans analyzing every detail from posture to choreography. And emotionally, the conversation is intense. Many longtime fans of Michael Jackson are expressing something deeper than curiosity. They are expressing hope. Hope that the story will be told with care. Hope that the humanity behind the icon will be understood. And for some, even the early glimpses of Jaafar's performance are already triggering nostalgia, reminding them of moments, music, and memories tied to Michael's legacy. If Jaafar Jackson delivers on what early reports suggest, this could redefine not just his career, but how legacy storytelling is approached in Hollywood. It could open doors for more family-driven portrayals where authenticity comes from lived experience, not just research. It could also reshape how audiences connect with biographical films, moving from observation to emotional immersion. For Jaafar himself, the stakes couldn't be higher. This isn't just a breakout role. This is a defining moment. A moment that could position him as a serious actor or place him under long-time scrutiny. And for the Jackson family, this film could become a new chapter in their ongoing story, one that bridges past and present in a way few projects ever attempt. At its core, this story isn't about fame. It's about family. It's about what it feels like to carry a name that the world recognizes instantly, but few truly understand. It's about stepping into a role that isn't just professional, but deeply personal. Imagine portraying someone you grew up admiring, someone your family loved, someone the world never stopped watching, and then imagine doing it so convincingly that the people closest to him feel like they are seeing him again. That's not just acting. That's emotional weight. And for the Jackson family, those moments, the ones that reportedly brought tears, may not be about sadness alone. They may be about remembrance, connection, and the realization that legacy doesn't disappear. It evolves. This story is still unfolding. And as more details emerge, one thing is certain. The world will be watching closely. So, what do you think? Can anyone truly step into the role of Michael Jackson, even someone from his own family? Or is this a risk that could never fully succeed? Join the conversation below. Share your thoughts, your expectations, and how you feel about this powerful moment. And if you want more deep investigative storytelling that goes beyond the headlines, make sure you stay connected. What makes this story so emotionally charged isn't just that Jaafar Jackson took on the role of Michael Jackson. As production on Michael continues gaining attention across Hollywood, insiders say the emotional atmosphere around the film has only intensified. What began as curiosity about how Jaafar Jackson would handle such a legendary role is now turning into something much larger. According to multiple reports tied to early screenings and internal production conversations, people close to the project are starting to believe this film could become one of the most emotionally impactful music biopics ever attempted. And the reason has everything to do with how deeply personal the performance appears to be becoming. Those familiar with the production claim there were moments during filming where cast and crew members reportedly stopped speaking entirely after certain takes. Not because of technical problems, not because scenes failed, but because the emotional realism became overwhelming. Several insiders suggest that when Jaafar recreated some of Michael Jackson's most iconic expressions, movements, and private emotional moments, the atmosphere reportedly shifted in ways no one fully expected. Some described it as eerie, others described it as heartbreaking, but nearly everyone close to the project seems to agree on one thing. The performance is affecting people emotionally before the film has even officially arrived. One moment in particular has reportedly become a major talking point behind the scenes. According to speculation circulating among industry insiders, there was a recreation of a deeply personal period in Michael Jackson's life that caused visible emotional reactions from individuals connected to the Jackson family. While exact details remain protected due to studio confidentiality, rumors suggest that seeing a younger family member embody Michael so convincingly triggered powerful memories tied to both the triumphs and struggles of the global superstar's life. And that emotional response may ultimately become one of the defining elements of this entire project. Because unlike most biopics where actors study archived footage and interviews from a distance, Jaafar Jackson grew up inside the world that shaped Michael Jackson. He didn't just observe the legend from television screens. He experienced the emotional reality surrounding that legacy firsthand. He understood the pressure attached to the name long before cameras ever started rolling. And many analysts believe that emotional proximity may be exactly why this portrayal feels different from previous attempts to capture iconic figures on screen. Hollywood has seen countless music biopics over the years. Some became award-winning masterpieces while others struggled under the weight of public expectations. Films about artists like Freddie Mercury, Elvis Presley, Johnny Cash, Whitney Houston, and Tupac Shakur each faced enormous scrutiny because audiences already carried emotional attachments to the real people being portrayed. But Michael Jackson exists in a completely different category. He wasn't simply famous. He became a worldwide phenomenon whose image transcended entertainment itself. His influence reached music, dance, fashion, culture, performance art, and even global media psychology. That level of cultural impact creates almost impossible expectations for anyone attempting to portray him authentically, which is exactly why industry experts are watching this project so closely. Some film insiders now believe Michael could either become one of the greatest musical biopics ever released or one of the most heavily criticized if audiences feel even slightly disconnected from the emotional truth of the story. And at the center of all that pressure stands Jaafar Jackson. Sources connected to the production say Jaafar reportedly spent countless hours studying not just Michael's public performances, but also his smallest behavioral details. The subtle pauses in interviews, the hand gestures, the softness in his speaking voice, the emotional shifts behind his facial expressions. Reports suggest he approached the role almost like an emotional reconstruction rather than a standard performance. And that level of dedication may explain why reactions behind closed doors have become so intense. Even longtime fans online are beginning to react emotionally to limited clips and leaked rehearsal footage circulating across social platforms. Some viewers claim they experienced chills watching certain movements because the resemblance felt disturbingly accurate. Others admitted the footage brought back childhood memories connected to Michael Jackson's music and public appearances. The internet conversation has now expanded far beyond simple curiosity about a movie. It's becoming a conversation about memory itself, about how deeply one artist became woven into the emotional lives of millions around the world. Social media analysts have already noticed something unusual surrounding discussions about the film. Instead of focusing purely on celebrity gossip or controversy, many conversations are centered around emotional connection. Fans aren't simply debating whether the actor looks convincing enough. They are discussing grief, nostalgia, admiration, and even unresolved emotions surrounding Michael Jackson's life and death. That kind of emotional investment is extremely rare in entertainment, especially before a film has officially premiered. And it highlights just how uniquely powerful the Jackson legacy remains even years later. Meanwhile, entertainment executives are reportedly paying close attention to early audience sentiment because the commercial expectations surrounding this film are enormous. A successful Michael Jackson biopic could dominate global box offices due to the singer's international fan base. Unlike many celebrities whose popularity is concentrated within specific generations or countries, Michael Jackson maintained worldwide recognition across decades and cultures. His music continues streaming at massive numbers globally. His performances remain viral online. Younger audiences still discover his catalog every year. That means the potential audience for Michael stretches far beyond nostalgic longtime fans. It includes entire new generations curious about the myth, the fame, and the humanity behind one of entertainment's biggest names. But with that attention also comes unavoidable scrutiny. Critics are already questioning how the film will approach the more controversial chapters of Michael Jackson's life. Some believe the movie must address every difficult topic directly in order to maintain credibility. Others argue the film should primarily focus on the artistry, creativity, and personal struggles that shaped him behind the scenes. That debate is already creating tension online before the movie has even completed its promotional rollout. And once again, Jaafar Jackson stands directly in the center of that pressure. Because regardless of what the script ultimately chooses to emphasize, audiences will judge whether the emotional honesty feels real. According to insiders, one reason the Jackson family reportedly became emotional during production is because certain scenes reminded them not only of Michael's success, but also of the immense burden he carried throughout his life. Fame at Michael Jackson's level often came with isolation, misunderstanding, and relentless public pressure. People close to the family have spent decades witnessing public fascination with Michael while privately carrying memories the world never fully saw. Watching those memories recreated through a family member's performance may have reopened emotions that remained buried for years. And perhaps that's why reactions on set reportedly became so powerful. Some observers believe the film may also reshape public understanding of Michael Jackson as a human being rather than just a celebrity icon. Modern audiences increasingly crave emotional complexity in storytelling. They want to understand not only achievements but vulnerabilities. They want context behind fame, pressure, loneliness, and personal sacrifice. If the film succeeds at balancing spectacle with emotional truth, it could dramatically shift how younger generations perceive Michael Jackson's life story. Instead of viewing him only as an untouchable icon, audiences may begin seeing the person beneath the mythology. And that emotional reframing could become one of the movie's most significant cultural impacts. Behind the scenes, producers reportedly understand exactly how delicate that balance must be. Too much nostalgia risks turning the film into a sanitized tribute. Too much controversy risks overshadowing the artistry that made Michael Jackson globally influential in the first place. Navigating that emotional territory requires extraordinary precision from everyone involved. And according to people familiar with the production, Jaafar Jackson's performance may ultimately become the emotional anchor holding everything together. Because when audiences watch biographical films, they aren't just evaluating costumes or choreography. They're searching for emotional authenticity. They want to believe they are witnessing something real, something human, something emotionally recognizable beneath the celebrity image. And early reactions suggest that may be exactly what Jaafar is delivering. There's also growing discussion around what this role could mean for Jaafar Jackson personally moving forward. Until now, much of the public primarily recognized him through his connection to the Jackson family. But this project could permanently transform his identity within Hollywood. A successful performance could establish him as a serious actor capable of carrying emotionally demanding material on a global stage. It could open doors to future dramatic roles far beyond music-related storytelling. But the risks remain equally massive. If audiences reject the portrayal or feel disconnected from the performance, criticism could follow him for years. That's the difficult reality of portraying someone as universally recognized as Michael Jackson. There's almost no neutral response possible. The performance will either deeply resonate or face relentless comparison. And perhaps that's part of why this story continues capturing so much attention online. People understand instinctively how emotionally dangerous this role truly is. Most actors never face the challenge of portraying someone whose image is practically embedded into global cultural memory. Every smile, every glance, every dance movement carries historical familiarity for audiences worldwide. Recreating that without falling into imitation requires emotional intelligence far beyond technical acting skill. It requires understanding the emotional energy people associated with Michael Jackson throughout his life. And according to growing reports, that's exactly the area where Jaafar appears to be surprising people most. Not merely through physical resemblance, but through emotional presence. Some insiders now believe the emotional reactions from family members may ultimately become one of the film's strongest indicators of authenticity. Because if the people who knew Michael personally are reportedly becoming emotional watching these recreations unfold, that suggests something deeper than simple performance may be happening. It suggests memory itself is being activated. And in entertainment, that kind of emotional realism is extraordinarily difficult to manufacture artificially. As anticipation builds, fans continue analyzing every available detail connected to the project. Social media pages dedicated to Michael Jackson regularly circulate side-by-side comparisons between original footage and recreated scenes from the film. Dance analysts examine posture accuracy frame by frame. Music fans debate vocal delivery and emotional tone. Fashion communities discuss costume precision. Rarely does a single performance invite this level of microscopic global attention before release. Yet somehow, instead of reducing excitement, the scrutiny seems to be amplifying emotional investment even further. Because beneath all the analysis lies a deeper emotional question. Can anyone truly bring back the feeling people experienced watching Michael Jackson during his lifetime? That may be the impossible challenge this film is attempting to confront. And according to the growing emotional reactions surrounding production, the answer may be more complicated than anyone expected. For the Jackson family, this movie may represent something far more personal than commercial success or critical recognition. It may represent preservation, an attempt to hold onto memory through storytelling before time slowly transforms public understanding forever. Every legendary artist eventually becomes history for newer generations. But films like this attempt to keep emotional connection alive across decades. They try to translate legacy into something younger audiences can emotionally experience rather than simply study from a distance. And if that's truly what Michael accomplishes, the impact could extend far beyond entertainment headlines. It could become a cultural event tied to remembrance itself. As more updates continue emerging from the production, curiosity surrounding the film only grows stronger. Industry insiders remain cautious but increasingly intrigued. Fans remain emotionally invested. Critics remain watchful. And somewhere inside all that pressure stands Jaafar Jackson, carrying not only the responsibility of portraying one of the most iconic entertainers in human history, but also the emotional expectations of a family whose story shaped global music culture forever. Whether this project ultimately becomes triumphant or controversial, one thing already seems undeniable. The emotional response surrounding it is real. And in an era where audiences constantly question authenticity in entertainment, that alone may explain why this story continues resonating so powerfully around the world.